So right now, guys, go ahead, go into classroom. You should be going to text number 3. It says Grendel's mother. So if you click on it, there we go. Should open up into this. Again, you just completed the reading check. Before you did that, now you're doing now we're going to be starting on Grendel's mother. So go ahead, jump into there, guys. Alright, and as you do, I'm going to explain a little bit about what I'm going to do with this particular section. I want to spend a little bit of time. There's some stuff I'm going to summarize for you because it's not really worth your time or mine to talk through some of the things that are on here that are just extra. It's like extra description, like what did Grendel's home look like? And it's like, it's nasty and gross, okay? They spend like a whole page and a half on that. So instead of us reading through that, I'm gonna summarize a couple things. And then there's gonna be some parts I'm gonna really hit that I wanna make sure that y'all hear the actual language from the text about. Then I'm gonna, after we've had a chance to sort of talk about it here as a class, as a whole, then I'm gonna sort of set you loose as like detail detectives. So you guys will be actually going through the text and answering some questions about the text, now really searching in, trying to find details, now that you have the whole story. So you'll have a good idea of what's happening, then you're just looking in there to find those details to answer those questions here at the tail end. Sound good? All right, now, as we sort of saw from Beowulf over these past 2 texts that we've read about him, one of the biggest sort of factors about Beowulf as a defining characteristic is he is super into himself. He's very prideful. He's very much about his fame and what other people see about him. His reputation is one of the biggest things that he cares about, that he puts his emphasis solely on his reputation. And a lot of the things that we see him do are because of his reputation. Things that don't make logical sense for him to go and do, for him to take on Grendel barehanded without the help of his men doing anything at all. Well, as a logical person, you want as much help as you can. But if you're prideful and you think you're the biggest, baddest dude ever, you're not going to want help, right? You're going to do it all by yourself because do you want to share the trophy with like these scrubs that just barely got off the bench to help you win your fights? No. If you're the MVP, you want all the stuff, right? You want that glory and fame, and that's how Beowulf was. But that was all he wanted. He wanted all that fame, all that attention, all that glory, that reputation. And so that's where this story sort of falls into the mix. You sort of see the full end of the monolith cycle here, where now we know Grendel's dead. He's killed Grendel. What happened at the tail end of the story? How do we know and remember Grendel is totally dead?
Didn't they hang his arm?
Yeah, they hung his arm from the rafters, right? So it's sort of like a state championship banner. You just won, like, I know soccer a little bit better than anything else. So like, for instance, Southeast won their soccer state championship a couple years back. They put a banner up in the gym. That's the way that everybody remembers that particular feat. That was a big thing. That was a big victory. That's where that feat sort of is shown, is in that banner. So now, let's dig into this text. So what happens here, Grendel's mom is super ticked because, her son has his arm ripped off and he's about to die, or he is dead. We're not really sure on where he's at necessarily in the story, where we're at currently. So she decides, I'm gonna get revenge. So she is going back to Herod, and as she goes there, let's see, where did I want? This is all this page is describing the home that they live in, which is super gross and grody. Now we get to the battle. Okay. Oh, hold up. Where's that? Okay, never mind. So what happens is the mother, she has come up into the hall and she takes something very near and dear to the Danish people. something that they have. Now, why am I not able to find this? Oh, I didn't go up another page. That's on me. That's on me. Alright. Whew. Y'all gonna have to forgive Smith. It's a brand new day. Alright. So she goes up to Harry. She finds the Danes, they're asleep. As they go through it, she just demolishes everything. But she only gets one person. But the person she gets is pretty darn important. It's Hrothgar's best friend, his closest friend. So down here in lines 4:10, to save her life, she moved still faster, took a single victim, fled from the hall, running to the moors, discovered, but her supper assured, sheltered in her dripping claws. She'd taken Hrothgar's closest friend, the man he loved most of all men on earth. She killed a glorious soldier, cut a noble life short. No geek could have stopped her. Beowulf and his band had been given better beds. Sleep had come to them in a different hall. Then all hair burst into shouts. She had carried off Grendel's claw. So right now she took two very important things to these people. One was Hrothgar's best friend. The second was what? Yeah, Grendel's claw, right? And taking that claw, what would that be? If we're talking, let's still go with the state championship sort of metaphor here. If we're talking about a state championship and we have the banner hanging up in the gym, and we got this huge trophy that we have displayed out in the hallway in this trophy case, let's say just a random team, for instance, let's say we play Northwest. And we beat Northwest into the ground 10-0. And we just mercy roll them in the championship game. And that's how we win. And let's say one of the mothers of one of the players gets real mad because we won. And she comes in the middle of the night and she steals the trophy. And takes it over there to Northwest Land. Okay? Now, how are we going to feel in that particular instance?
Ready to fight.
Oh yeah, we are going to be ready to throw down. And imagine these people that have seen nothing but death and defeat for the past however long. The claw hung up there to show them, hey, we're safe. That monster that's been trying to kill and maim everyone for the past 6 months is dead and gone. So we don't have to worry about it. But then, that thing's gone. So that reminder of everything's safe is vanished. So they do what all people do, they panic. They just freak out. Sorrow had returned to Denmark. They traded deaths, Danes and monsters. No one had won. Both had lost. Ooh. Puts us in a tough spot here. So who are they going to call? They realize things have gone down real bad. Hrothgar goes and he tries to send out for Beowulf because those dudes, since they were awesome and they won, they got to sleep in a better place. So they gave them this separate little locker room place to sleep in that's much better, that had better beds than the hall where all this went down. So now they sort of retell it again. This is Grendel's mother taking both of those treasures back to her little hole in the ground lake where she lives. All right. Now, Beowulf is taking on this challenge because again, he's mad about the dude getting killed and being taken away. Well, I think he's probably more upset about that trophy that he earned with his bare hands, ripping it off of the monster after fighting him for probably what would be an hour or so of scuffling with this beast. I'd be pretty ticked if somebody stole a trophy like that I worked so hard for and now it's gone. So he, again, very prideful, very emotion-driven, and specifically about his reputation, because he could tell everybody, yeah, I ripped the monster's arm off. But what if there's no proof? No, everybody's going to believe him. Even though he's the biggest, baddest dude in the entire world, still be well, where's your proof, man? You don't have anything. So this is where we get into probably the funnest part of it. So, the Battle of Grendel's mother. So this is where I'm going to sort of read some things. I'm going to summarize some stuff for you. We'll just break it down in sort of a quick pace kind of thing, because that's how this story and this fight should be told. All right, so Beowulf arrives at this lake where Grendel's mother lives, that deep, dark abyss of a pond that they live in. So now he jumps into the water without waiting for anybody else. Now he brought his group, his group followed him there, but he wasn't there asking them, hey guys, watch me, spot me, just make sure if I, die, that you'll dive in there to help me out. No. He without anybody looking at it, he would not wait for anyone's answer. He jumped right into the lake. The heaving water covered him over. Now he swims for hours and hours and hours upon end to get to the bottom of this lake. Now, again, we know that he's got these supernatural powers. He's supernaturally strong. He ripped the arm of a monster off completely. He's got these supernatural powers. One, he can breathe underwater. It's just how it is. Again, he's got all these crazy things that goes on with him. This is probably the least crazy of them all. So as he goes down there, now he sees a bunch of other monsters, but he discovers and he finds the one he's after. He finds Grendel's mom. All right. Gotta make sure I'm reading the right lines for you guys, because I jumped that last page. All right. So here, and all at once, right here, 455, who ruled this greedy she-wolf, who ruled those waters for 500 years, discovered him, saw that a creature from above had come to explore the bottom of her wet world. She welcomed him in her claws, clutched at him savagely, but could not harm him. Tried to work her fingers through the tight ring-woven mail on his breast, but tore and scratched in vain. Then she carried him, armor and sword and all, to her home. He struggled to free his weapon, but failed. And now all these other monsters are sort of mocking him and trying to stab at him while they're being brought down. Then he's brought to this, basically like an arena, like this little battle hall underneath the water, where he's able to sort of fight a little bit easier. So now we're here in the midst of this little battle area. And then he saw the mighty water witch and swung his sword, his ring-marked blade, straight at her head. The iron sang its fierce song, sang Beowulf's strength. But her guest discovered that no sword could slice her evil skin, which we discovered last week. That was the problem with Grendel, right? None of the swords worked against him because there was this magical curse on him that no human weapons could pierce his skin. That's why Beowulf had to rip his arm completely off of his body in order for him to bleed and die. So he discovers that Hrunting could not hurt her and was useless now when he needed it most. Hrunting is the name of Beowulf's sword. Think of it like, y'all watch Thor Ragnarok? The Thor movie, that's the fun one. That I love that one. That's the only Thor movie I've really watched. But in that, you have Korg, you have, at the very beginning, Thor's hammer, Mjolnir is completely crushed and destroyed. And as he goes throughout the movie without this hammer, he just feels so dejected and down, like his best friend had just died. Because essentially that's what it was. That those weapons meant something to these people. And for Beowulf, this sword meant something. That Hrunting was the thing that had killed so many of his beasts and these foes that he's fought before. And now when he needs it most, it's not working. And he realizes this is not going down the way it should. My sword that I've been connected with for all these times I've murdered all these other things, now it's not working for me. And that's just a big deal. So now he's realizing this. Now they just start grappling. So they wrestled. She ripped and tore and clawed at him, bit holes in his helmet, and that failed him too. For the first time in years of being worn to war, it would earn no glory. It was the last time anyone would wear it. So his helmet completely smashed, destroyed. But Beowulf longed only for fame, leaped back into battle. He tossed his sword aside, angry. The steel-edged blade lay where he dropped it. If weapons were useless, he'd use his hands, the strength in his fingers. So fame comes to the men who mean to win it and care about nothing else. He raised his arm and seized her by the shoulder. Anger doubled his strength. He threw her to the floor. She fell. Grendel's fierce mother and the Geat's proud prince was ready to leap on her. But she rose at once and repaid him with her clutching claws, wildly tearing at him. He was weary, that best and strongest of soldiers. His feet stumbled. In an instant, she had him down, held, helpless. Squatting with her weight on his stomach, she drew a dagger brown with dried blood and prepared to avenge her only son. But he was stretched on his back, and her stabbing blade was blunted by the woven mail shirt he wore on his chest. The hammered links held. The point could not touch him. He had traveled to the bottom of the earth, Ejepho's son, and died there, if that shining woven metal had not helped. And holy God, who sent him victory, gave judgment for truth and right. Once Beowulf was back on his feet fighting. Okay. I need to take a breath from that. Pretty intense. So we have, in the course of this, let's just summarize, make sure we got this whole thing down. Beowulf comes down. He's trying to stab at her. He can't do it. Sword doesn't work. He realizes, oh crap, this is not going good. She starts ripping at his chest and just going to town, trying to destroy him. The only thing, she's able to rip his clothes, and that's about it. But then she grabs this dagger as they fall to the bottom. Now she has this dagger ready to stab into him. The chainmail on his chest, which is sort of like, think like a Kevlar vest maybe, in like today's age. And he's got, it's like his last piece of protection, just barely there, hanging on. And the blade is blunted, so she stabs, it just doesn't work. It just sort of blunts out there at the end. And then she starts, again, ripping at him, and that's the only thing that sort of held him up. And now that he realizes, okay, this is serious. So up here, he was like in some serious trouble. He realized his sword didn't work. That was like the bottom level. Like he knew he was like considering giving up and quitting at this point, because it was just like a lost cause. But now he's sort of empowered by this, and now he sees, okay, I came all this way. Am I going to come all this way just to die? And he said, fame comes to those who are willing to win it, that mean to win it and to achieve it and want nothing else. That's who I am. As Beowulf, that's what I want. I'm not going to let this monster kill me down here. So we jump ahead. Now let's see if I can get my mouse working. There we go. All right. Now, starting here in like 5:13. Then he saw hanging on the wall a heavy sword hammered by giants, strong and blessed with their magic, the best of all weapons, but so massive that no ordinary man could lift it. Its carved and decorated length. He drew it from its scabbard, broke the chain on its hilt, and then, savage, now angry and desperate, lifted it high over his head and struck with all the strength he had left, caught her in the neck, and it cut through, broke bones and all. Her body fell to the floor, lifeless. The sword was wet with her blood, and Beowulf rejoiced at the sight. Okay, now, this sword worked, but his didn't. Why do you think this sword's able to cut through her skin, but no other blade has been able to?
It's her sword.
Yeah, it's a magical sword of some kind, right? Made by giants. It's something that is actually going to be able to affect her. Because Beowulf's normal sword Grunting is just regular old metal made by people. It doesn't have enchantments or anything on it. It's just a cool sword that he's been able to keep like working the whole time after he's murdered thousands of things. But he had to use her own kind of weaponry against her, some kind of magical thing to be able to win here. Then the brilliant light shone suddenly as though burning in that hall, and as bright as heaven's own candle lit the sky. He looked at her home, then following along the wall, went walking, his hands tied on the sword, his heart still angry He was hunting another dead monster and took his weapon with him for final revenge against Grendel's vicious attacks. His nighttime raids, over and over, coming to Herod when Hrothgar's men slept, killing them in their beds, eating some on the spot, 15 or more, and running to his loathsome moor with another such sickening meal waiting in his pouch. But Beowulf repaid him for those visits, found him lying dead in his corner, armless, exactly as that fierce fighter had sent him out from Herod, then struck off his head with a single swift blow. The body jerked for the last time, then lay still. All right. So we see Beowulf, he wins out against the mom. Then what's the immediate next thing he wants to go do? Yeah, to know for sure that Grendel is dead. Because he didn't get the chance to cut off his head and rip him limb from limb. He only ripped off one arm, and then Grendel went running, crying away to his mommy. And so he didn't have a chance to actually see Grendel die in front of him. Now, Grendel's already dead on the floor with one arm. But to have that final thing, that final sort of reconciliation of this is finally over, that is something that at least the Danish people are looking for. They want to know this is done. And we can finally stop having to worry. We can just keep partying and not have to worry about all these monsters constantly coming in and trying to mess it up. We just want to party all the time because that's what we as these Danish people want to do, apparently. We just party all the time. And that makes monsters very mad, apparently. So we just want to know the monsters are dead so we can just keep on raging. So Beowulf knows that, but he's doing this for his own purposes. Why do you think he goes to go kill Grendel?
His mom killed his best friend.
Okay, yeah, his mom killed the king's best friend, right? But for Beowulf specifically, now Beowulf, he's not attached to the Danish people. He's coming from a whole other group, the Geats, a whole other tribe of people. They decided to come over and help out because his dad was helped by these people and he helped these people before. But Beowulf, again, what is the one thing that he is solely focused on?
His pride.
His pride, right? So let's take it back to our trophy that was just stolen by Northwest Mama, right? So we have Northwest Mama still in that trophy. We are able to get down there. Somebody gets down there and they get the trophy. Well, let's say not just the trophy, they find even more treasures. I don't know, like the game ball that was stolen that somebody scored 7 goals with, and that game ball was stolen as well. That's basically what you're seeing here. Is you're seeing a return on investment. So instead of just the arm, now Beowulf's going to be able to take something else back that's even more valuable off of Grendel. So as we go, let's roll down here to that next section. My thing wants to go that way. All right. So now all the men that are still standing on the lakeside, just like, should we have followed him down there? He just sort of jumped in the water, and now there's blood rising to the top. What if he's dead? Well, I don't know. And that's the sort of where you're finding these dudes that came with him. And then, let's see. Now we have Beowulf here. So Beowulf is he's looking around this sort of treasure hall down there where Grendel's mother was. The monster's hall is full of rich treasures, but all that Beowulf took, he took 2 things with him, was Grendel's head and the hilt of the giant's jeweled sword. The rest of that blade had dissolved in Grendel's steaming blood, boiling even after his death. Okay, so if he still had the full sword and it didn't melt on the actual blade part, he probably would have brought the whole thing back. But now he's bringing back the jeweled hilt, which is like the handle of the sword, and what else? His head. I think that's better than an arm. If I'll be honest with you, I think a head probably is going to be a lot more assuring to me than an arm. Because the monster can come back and get me with his other arm and his 2 legs. He could probably kick my head off if he wanted to. So I'm still concerned and scared there. if his head is gone, I'm not too worried. That monster's dead in my book. And you get to hang his head up where the arm used to be and use it as a pinata, whatever, right? Those dudes are gonna party day and disco ball anyways, so just might as well have a head spin around up there. That's something, right? Alright, so he comes back up. Now the water's sort of calm, clean. Just imagine like it was this stormy, awful place, and now it's sort of the light is shining on it. It's the end of the movie. Everything's good now. The water's calm. It looks pretty. Then, now Beowulf, he's like, because these are like more Viking type people, he is more of a seafaring kind of protector. He sort of watches over the people that are in the ships that do their voyages and things like that. So he swims to land. He's rejoicing. He's so excited. They go back to Herod, to the Danes, and of course, what have the Danes been doing this whole time? Well, of course they've been partying. What else would they do? They've done nothing else this whole story. So at the hall, bold and warlike, and with Beowulf, their lord and leader, they walked on the mead hall green. Then the Geats' brave prince entered Herod, covered with glory for the daring battles he had fought. He sought Hrothgar to salute him and show Grendel's head. He carried that terrible trophy by the hair, brought it straight to where the Danes sat, drinking, the queen among them. It was a weird and wonderful sight, and the warriors stared. So it's very odd, but you have Beowulf. He's basically, all he cares about is his reputation, right? So he's walking in the midst of this. He walks up to, as everybody's drinking, having a good time, holding the head of a monster. As he walks up to the table of the dude that's in charge of the party and sort of like slams the table. Hey, I killed your monster. Look at me. And he's like, again, trying to show off a little bit more, right? He's trying to get that pride, that reputation built up. Because again, his trophy was stolen. He's brought back an even better one. He brought back this and the piece of the sword that he used to kill both of these monsters forever, right? So now we sort of get to the end here. That's where we sort of stop off this story. We have Grendel's dead, Grendel's mother's dead. It sort of completes the cycle that we started from the beginning. Now we still have another section that we're going to catch Wednesday. But for right now that you guys have sort of the idea of the story, I want you guys for the next let's say the next 10 minutes or so. For the next 10 minutes, I want you guys to sort of dive in, be like detail detectives. Like now that you have the idea of the full story and what happens, I want you to dig in and find the details. So you'll go to where it says Beowulf reading questions, click on it. Tells you specifically what I want, which is exactly what I just told you. And then you'll click on the questions. It's like 15-ish questions. If you don't finish them here in class, finish them having done before Wednesday. Okay? Because Wednesday we'll talk. I want to make sure this is done and turned in before that. Okay? So this is all the stuff that we just read through and talked about. Now we'll go through the text, find some of those details. Any questions on that, guys? All right, excellent. So let's get after it. Next 10 minutes or so, we'll just keep working through this.
What time do we get out of the